we teach our children corruption in basic schools.
A few meters away from the shores of the Jamestown beaches of Accra, the capital of Ghana, lies the scene that hosts arguably the most disturbing organized crime that involves some staff of the Ghana Education Service GES and pupils sitting for the 2025 Basic Education Certificate Examination BECE, organized by the West African Examinations Council WAEC. Incidents of examination malpractice are recorded every year, resulting in the cancellation of some subjects, entire results, or withholding of results of some candidates, as well as arrest of officials who flout examination rules to compromise the integrity of the BECE. To unravel the rot in the BECE, investigative platform GH Probe embarked on a quest to expose the systematic nature of BECE malpractices. In this investigative piece, Francisca Enchel will take you into the dark world of BECE to expose how some GES officials compromise test integrity in some randomly selected exam centers in the Greater Accra region under the guise of helping children pass at all costs. The team conducted its investigations at Derby Avenue RC Basic School and St. George's Anglican Basic School, which hosted 14 schools with total registered candidates numbering 415, to understand circumstances that account for undetected examination malpractices that are becoming an acceptable norm in Ghana. Derby Avenue RC Basic School Examination Center hosted Adomens Junior High School, Amamomo Junior High School, Ayalolo 1 and 2 Junior High School, Derby Avenue RC Basic School, Agape Mighty Trinity Academy Paulinus Queensland School, and Bethel ECG Preparatory School, with a total of 235 registered candidates. St. George's Anglican Basic School Examination Center also hosted 7 schools, namely Darius Preparatory Junior High School, Redeemed King of Glory International School, Vasden Royal Complex School, and Eddie Gray Memorial School. They also hosted Zion Academy, St. George's Anglican Basic School, and Mamprobi EP Basic School, with 180 total registered candidates. The investigation found evidence of institutionalized examination malpractices perpetuated in a manner of an organized crime for financial gains by some staff of the various hierarchies of the GES mandated to supervise the examination. The investigations found that the cabal comprised examination supervisors and deputies, head teachers, invigilators, teachers, and, in some instances, school improvement support officers, CISOs, as well as the candidates who are the beneficiaries of the crime, all ensuring that the candidates pass every single subject through no efforts of theirs. Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, the Acting Director General of GES, who declined speaking on camera, outlined efforts made by the GES and its major stakeholders to ensure all staff of the service understand the rules governing the exams and the repercussions of violating them. The sensitization ended a day before the exams.
Before the examination, we sent our team with WAEC. They toured the whole country. I don't know whether when you spoke to people they told you. BC, they toured the whole country. On a day before the start of the exams, I issued a press statement. I don't know whether you read the press statement. And we told the whole world that if a teacher is caught aiding cheating, that is the end of the teacher. The teacher may be fired.
According to the head of public affairs at WAEC, John Cappy, the council spelled out the rules to the supervisors. Meanwhile, on the same day, staff of GES appointed as supervisors for the exams and tasked with the responsibility to relay the rules to the invigilators were rather outrightly preparing the invigilators to break the rules.
Some of them will be asked a question, but sometimes we don't know, so we tell them, I don't know.
Okay.
If they can ask their friends, which they feel is correct, I can permit you ask your friend the same. And from this, it is not individual, it's by the school, understand? And from here, they are entering to another level. So for them to open their schools like this session, so you can ask your friend to fill the gap. It will be very embarrassing that a whole person why have to be like that? And we have to talk to them to when you see strange people. When you see us, fine. When you get feeling some strange person coming, then you can be later. We are letting external visitors coming.
Okay.
Please, they want to be on your people. So we guide them.
Okay.
Every candidate should do independent work. When you hear us talk about collusion, that is what we're talking about. Collusion is simply that you have the same thing running through the scripts of the candidates. So it tells you that either there has been a certain kind of communication between the candidates, or there's been an external source, one source to every single person. So candidates are supposed to do independent work. That is why when you look at the rules, they ask whether each candidate is assigned a desk and a chair, and there's a certain distance from one candidate to another, so that they do not have the opportunity of communicating with each other. So there should be no communication whatsoever between one candidate and the other. If in the course of the examination you have any question, you put up your hand, and the invigilator is the only person who should answer that question.
Wednesday, the 11th of June 2025, was the start of exams which would continue until Wednesday, the 18th of June 2025, to be written by 603,328 registered candidates across the country. The exams started with assembly of candidates, after which a CISO laid down the rules to candidates. They were then marched to the exam rooms without the conduct of searches. It would later be discovered in our investigation that the foreign materials that the search would have found were sanctioned, hence the deliberate skipping of the search. According to WAEC, candidates are required to be thoroughly searched before entering the examination halls.
One of the first things that you do is to search the candidates thoroughly before they go in. That is why we advise a 30-minute wait period. So searching has not been cancelled. It is still an integral part of the process before the examinations start.
This investigation found that the examination malpractice is perpetuated directly by some staff of GES who provide candidates with answers to all the questions. The answers come through an invigilator dictating the answers, presenting pieces of paper with handwritten answers to candidates to copy and pass on to colleagues, and in some instances, they come on printed sheets distributed to as many as possible candidates at a go. At 9 a.m., the bell announced the start of exams. Unlike a normal examination hall that is characterized by total silence and focus in the first 30 minutes of the start-off paper, this investigation uncovered a strange phenomenon. The halls were noisy, candidates were not writing anything, and some were sleeping. To the utter surprise of GH probe investigators, about 30 minutes into the exams, some particular invigilators abandoned their duty post to distribute answers to the questions in batches, one question after the other.
Any possession of any such thing is illegal, and you can be prosecuted, you can be fined or incarcerated for a certain period of time. Currently, there have been some people who have been prosecuted. Some of them have been sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. Some have 8 months, others have 30 days. So depending on the gravity of the crime and the discretion of the presiding judge.
This continued for the rest of the papers, including objective tests in which invigilators, in some instances, dictated answers to the candidates. This explained the scene at the start of the paper.
The only papers to be given to the candidates by any official, the answer booklet, the question paper, or the objective answer card, these three items by way of paper, these are the ones that you can give to them. And then for shading purposes, we give them pencils. Apart from these, no other paper should come from anyone to any candidate in the examination hall. So if any examination official, a supervisor, or an invigilator is found distributing any other paper in the examination hall, it is illegal. It is wrong.
To ensure that the happenings in the exam halls stayed in the exam halls, all answers distributed on papers were taken back by invigilators before exiting the halls. Aside from providing the candidates with answers on papers and by dictation, there was also heavy dependence on mobile phones, a development that was sanctioned by the invigilators and supervisors. The phones were used in two ways: answer transmission from invigilators to phones of candidates and the use of artificial intelligence (AI).
I think parents should desist from providing mobile phones for their children, because at BEC, I believe that, well, much as maybe some of them are big enough to earn money, a child who is in JHS3 certainly would have gotten a phone from the parent. And so if the child is going to write examination and you say, for this week, I'm taking your phone away from you, you have not done anything wrong. On the contrary, you are serving a good purpose to help the child to be independent in the work that they do.
GH probe found that one invigilator takes phone numbers of candidates in possession of phones. Questions are solved in a so-called strong room, and the answers are transmitted to the candidates through their mobile phones. They copy and pass their phones on to colleagues who have no phones. The AI was used in two ways. Some candidates opted for the use of AI in generating answers to the questions and used the entire responses of AI on WhatsApp, while others sought explanations for questions they had been asked to list and explain. This second group thus demanded further help, as answers invigilators had transmitted to them lacked the explanations. Some invigilators even joined the candidates in the AI search.
In the past few years, we decided that henceforth anybody found with a phone in the examination hall would have their entire results cancelled, because the phone is, for us, as far as examinations are concerned, a gadget that has a storage facility with which you can access information from any quarter. So phones are simply a no-go area as far as our examinations are concerned.
Some candidates brought books into the exams hall from which they copied their answers for the BECE questions.
Certainly, talk about the coordinated form of it. I think that with the involvement of all these personnel who I would say should have been helping us, were rather being against us. Certainly there was something grave that went wrong in the course of the examination. Yeah.
Despite all the malpractices that happened in both centers investigated, they successfully evaded being caught by both WAEC external invigilators and officials of National Intelligence Bureau who visited the centers. No arrests were made. Why? On citing external invigilators, the supervisor received a signal and relayed the alert to invigilators for immediate action. Teachers and head teachers of participating schools were seen at the exam centers before, during, and after every paper, interacting with invigilators and supervisors and actively making efforts to compromise them financially in exchange of assistance to the candidates.
When it is BEC, headmasters and teachers of participating schools should not be at any of these examination centers.
Derby Avenue Center had 2 CISOs visiting the center in the course of the examination. One of the CISOs actively distributed printed answers to the candidates. CISOs were aware of the invasion of the centers by the teaching staff and, in some instances, were seen interacting with them while exams were ongoing. Mr. Kofi Asari, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, a non-profit education policy research and advocacy organization, believes that the categories of people selected to supervise the examination have vested interest in the pass rates. Hence, assigning them to supervise the examination is putting them in a conflicting situation.
Our position is that because staff of the GES have vested interest in the outcome of the examination, including among others, some of their staff having KPIs directly related to the pass rates in the examination, deploying them as supervisors is actually putting them in a conflicting situation. We at Edward believe that a head teacher should not be allowed to supervise an examination in their school. And we also believe that even at the district education office, we can't call them supervisors. Because if a head teacher cannot supervise an examination in their school, I don't see why the CISO can supervise.
GH Probe established that the collusion by invigilators with candidates to breach the integrity of the examination was motivated by financial gains, as invigilators were given different types of financial gifts in the course of the exams. At the Derby Avenue RC Exams Center, on the first day of the examination, while preparing exam materials for candidates to commence writing, invigilators were invited by the supervisor to a meeting with the headmistress of the host school, Derby Avenue RC. She announced a daily 60 cedis gift for each invigilator for the duration of the examination.
We said we have exactly for you 60 cedis a day. It is 50 Ghana a day. Our goal decided to come for you to this. So 60 Ghana. Should I give it to you or we should be making it every day 60 Ghana, every day 60 Ghana. So that you know we have catered for you for the week. Because we are public schools. So which one?
We would like to take this daily.
Daily?
Yes. What is it?
So after the paper, you bring it.
Yes.
Candidates were also instructed to give their invigilators money at the end of every day's examination. At the St. George's Anglican Basic School Exams Center, payment was made in bulk. The supervisor handed envelopes containing 400 cedis to each invigilator.
GS has not paid. It is WAEC that pays this money to the candidate because it is factored into the fee that is paid from the state to us to relate to the invigilators and supervisors. So any payment that is made in the course of the examination to an invigilator, a supervisor, is illegal. It is not coming from WAEC. WAEC does not pay money in the course of the examination. We don't do that. You finish and then you submit your claims and then they are worked out properly and then the money is sent in bulk to the supervisor and then he in turn would also relay same to the teachers who took part in the invigilation.
Not many schools wrote the final paper, so for the centers investigated, the exams ended on the 17th of June 2025. Days earlier, candidates at Derby Avenue were informed to prepare financially for an offertory called the Aseda Offertory, which will be collected before the start of the final papers at the center. This offertory was meant to thank invigilators for their assistance in the examination. On the morning of the final paper, The invigilator who announced the ASEDA offertory the previous day, who later got the nickname Sir ASEDA, would move from one exam hall to another with a box for collection of the offertory. Candidates were asked to pay 5 cedis or above. The total amount collected was shared among the invigilators. Each invigilator received at least 60 cedis as their share in the unspecified total sum raised in the ASEDA offertory.
How much is that?
That one we will give you seconds after the next one. So this one is as I want to give this. Add 5 cents so that you give 50. Hurry up.
According to WAEC, any money paid by anyone to any invigilator in the course of the examination is illegal, as WAEC has the sole responsibility to pay invigilators and supervisors, and which payment is done weeks after conclusion of exams.
GS has not paid. It is WAEC that pays this money to the candidate because it is factored into the fee that is paid from the state to us to relate to the invigilators and supervisors. So any payment that is made in the course of the examination to an invigilator, a supervisor, is illegal. It is not coming from WAEC. WAEC does not pay money in the course of the examination. We don't do that. You finish and then you submit your claims, and then they are worked out properly, and then the money is sent in bulk to the supervisor, and then he in turn would also relay same to the teachers who took part in the invigilation.
In the past few years, WAEC has struggled with leakages of question papers prior to the start of exams. Head of Public Affairs at WAEC, John Cappy, outlines the reforms implemented to block leakages.
This year we decided to increase our collaboration with our partners. If I talk about our partners, I'm talking about the Ghana Education Service, I'm talking about the Ghana Police Service, I'm talking also about the National Intelligence Bureau. We also had our own locally trained personnel that we send out, and then our staff who also go out. So I think that we had an increased presence across the country to monitor the examination, and I think that to a large extent, yes, we were successful because the reports that we received indicated that but for the presence of these persons, a lot could have gone wrong in the conduct of the examination.
Indeed, the strategy by WAEC appeared effective, as leakages of question papers referred to as APO were not recorded and questions arrived at exams centers securely sealed during GH probe investigations.
Leakage in question papers occurred, between 2020, 2021, 2022, and that was the major dimension of examination fraud. But since 2023, when the Ministry of Education brought in the BNI to take over the questions security and printing security, we've not been seeing leakages in the dimension that we used to see. The questions hardly leak. But because, as I said, there is a demand and a supply and a business case for that matter, the teachers who are involved in this crime have suddenly re-strategized and moved from having foreknowledge of the questions, solving them and giving them to the students to learn before the examination, to an era where they collude in the examination hall.
It is important to note that WAEC took record of 43 arrests made in the course of the 2025 BEC examination. They committed different offenses of examination malpractice from different parts of Ghana.
We recorded people related to the examination who were directly involved in malpractices. There were cases of a supervisor, assistant supervisor. There were certain teachers. There were even administrators of schools there were 2 cases where heads of the basic schools were involved in this kind of thing. So yes, it is true that it is coordinated.
WAEC wants to be given the power and resources to recruit invigilators of the highest standard to help curb the practice of examination malpractice. Professor Davis said that the GES will be unable to continue working with any staff member found to have been involved in any form of exam malpractice, amplifying the directive of the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, to dismiss culpable staff members from the service.
The point is, we can't work with you. Forget, yes, code of conduct is there, but we hired you and we feel you are a threat. You cannot be with a student. So you want us to send somebody who will go, instead of teaching the student in the classroom to pass, decide to take the question to the student to exams room. You want us to keep the person in the school?
Kofi Asari spoke about the negative impact of exam malpractices on Ghana.
The major impact of examination malpractice is felt on the social fiber of our society. That is where we breed corruption. We teach our children corruption in basic schools. Corruption 101 is what we teach them when we support them to participate in examination fraud and examination malpractice at the basic level. So you are grooming the child to understand that corruption is normalized, and once you can make it, the most important thing is that you have made it. If you start teaching your child corruption in basic schools, the child will never unlearn it at the tertiary level, and they will grow up to become corrupt citizens, corrupt adults. That, for me, is the most damaging impact of examination malpractice.
Professor Davis also decried the negative impact of exams malpractice to the nation.
We don't want to have professionals who have cheated their way through, because once they finish secondary school, they are going to university and they will come out as professionals. And I don't think nobody will be happy being operated on by a doctor who cheated his or her way through education. So we frown on it, and any head who will do that should pray that he or she is not caught. But once he or she is caught,
WAEC is demanding adequate supervision of teachers to ensure that candidates are properly prepared to independently write and pass the exams.
First of all, I think that we need to look at the teaching in the schools, supervision of teachers. How much teaching have they done? Because if you look at the fact that a teacher would want to go and assist their own children in an examination hall, the least conclusion you can come to is that this person hasn't done his job in the classroom in terms of preparing them for the examination. So ill preparation of these candidates may be the major factor that is pushing them to go out there and try to assist the candidates in the examination hall. So if there is adequate supervision of teaching and getting to know whether indeed these candidates are being adequately prepared for the examination, probably it will be a thing that will cause us to tell that, okay, fine, they are prepared to go, and then they can go out there and write the examination independently.
A Francisca Enchel report for GH Probe.